A short tutorial to talk about local variables versus global variables. We're going to create um, a little thing where people can click the button 1 1 and then 2 2 2, and then if they click this button here, that will tell them how many times they click the numbers above and then display the number that they ended up with. So they click the button, I click the buttons 1 and 2, I clicked those 6 times, and the final number that was in the screen was 111222. I hope you can start thinking about how this might help you with your calculator. So let's get rid of this. And what I have so far, I just set up the window just like every other time we've done this. Imported things from tkinter, set up the window, the geometry, and gave it a title. This next section, I'm going to eventually define what the buttons will do, but that's going to be the biggest chunk of this video, so we'll come back. Down here, I assigned two different variables. I'm going to use two variables in this program. The first one is display. Display is going to be a string. It's going to have characters. It'll have letters and such. Count is going to be a number. I'm going to count how many times people have clicked the buttons. Now, in this next section, I've got two different labels. The first label was the initial display. So while they're clicking the buttons 1 and 2, this label will show what they've done so far. This button 1 is for the number 1. Button 2 is for the number 2. This button is what they'll click at the end that will tell them how many times they've clicked. And finally, this label is going to print that information, how many times they clicked and what their final number was. So let's now talk about defining button 1. Button 1, first of all, this is the new part. I want to talk about a global variable. We're going to take the variable from count. Count was what we set up down below. Count is right here. And I'm going to make this variable global, meaning I'm going to allow this variable to be changed anywhere within this program. I'm going to change the variable, the value of count within this button. I'll add on to that within button 2, and then I'll use that final number in button count. So global count, I made it global. I've made it so that value can be used anywhere within this program. And when they click on button 1, I'm going to add one value. So if count started out at 0 originally, when they click button 1, now count is going to be at 1 because they clicked the button one time. Now I'm going to take my display variable and make that global as well. That way it can be used anywhere in this program. What I'm going to do is change the value of display to be, this is kind of like we were talking about before, where I'm going to take whatever's in the display, the label up above. So I'm going to get the text that's in that label, and I'm going to add the number 1 to it. I think most of you are at this point. You're doing that already in your calculator. And then I'm going to change the label display to contain whatever it is we've done so far. So I'm going to, if there was a 1 there and they click the 1 button, it'll be 1 1, and that's what I'll change the label to be. So we're good there. I'm going to do this exact same thing for button 2. So I'm going to just copy this. I'm going to do the exact same code for button 2, except I'm going to, of course, change this value to the number 2 instead. So anything that's added, every time they click the button 2, I'm going to add 1 to this count, saying, okay, we've added 1 more. We've clicked it 1 more time. Clicked it again. We clicked it again. This global display will take whatever's in the display right now and I'll throw a 2 at the end of it, and then I'll change the display up above. Now, here's the next part. This is why we made everything global. We made everything global so that while this is all counting and changing, now we can use that information in button count. So this is what we're going to do first. I want to, when they click this count button, I want to take out whatever was in the display label. That's the very top label. I just want to empty it. I just want to, like, we're going to hit clear. I just want to get rid of everything. So I'm going to set that text to be just a blank. Now, the second label, the one that changes, so when they click the click here, I'm going to change what goes in that. I'm going to change the text. And this is a little bit new for some of you. I'm going to put a big line of code. I'm going to say, you clicked the buttons. I'm going to put a little space to make it look good. And then I'm going to add in my global variable. This is exactly why I made this global. I'm going to say you click the buttons, count whatever the value of count is at the time. So it's been adding in, every time they click the one button, it's been adding one every time. One plus one more, plus one more. Same thing, it took whatever was happening here. Since it was global, that value carried over here, adding one more to that and one more to that. So now whatever we ended up with, that's what's going to go here in this label. So I'm going to take that count and I'm going to say, you click the buttons, count times. And the final number was, and I'm going to, whatever was in display, I'm going to add that here. Now, the problem is, we've got a couple problems here. We've got count as a number, and I need to change it to a word, like a string, because what I'm doing is I'm taking this, you click the buttons, that's a string, and I want to put count after it as a string, and I want to do the same thing to my display. I want to change that to a string because that way Python will know that it's supposed to just put you click the buttons, put this number as a string and put it after the buttons, and then change whatever is in display, that number was there, change it to a string, and all of these together will form one single sentence that will go on the label. So let's check it out. I'm going to save this and see how it goes. So if we hit run, oops, I'll have to find it again. Every time I click the button 1, we just added 1 to the count. All right, I clicked 1 time, plus 1. If I click the number 2, plus 1. I clicked it again. And then if I clicked 1, it's adding 1 to the count, adding 1 more to the count, adding another to the count, adding another to the count. So far I've clicked it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So now if we click here to see how many times we clicked, it should say we clicked 6 times and give us our final result. Oh, but I didn't make my label big enough. Let me fix that. I don't want the width to be 5. I just want it to be, okay, let's try it again. This should work better. Okay, I'm going to try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We clicked 6 times. So if I click here, it's going to say you clicked the button 6 times, and the final number was 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I hope you can think about how that might help you with your calculator about keeping track of things, using some values in other variables, and then when another button was clicked, maybe the equal sign, we'll take some value from up above and add it to another number. So I hope this helps. If not, I will see you on Wednesday.